Live, 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 Uziel's live for you to join along. Live, 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 Uziel's live for you to join along. We are live. Sorry, the camera's a little. There we go. Yeah, so we are live. Hi, everybody. Tuesdays lives we have every Tuesday. Thank you, everyone, for joining. A reminder. Just give me a second here. There we go. Some other things here. Yep. A reminder that we have every Tuesday live. So I really appreciate for those who are starting off joining us today. And to be honest, I did not want to do a live stream like this. I wanted to do something fun, like we do every week, and we wanted to do something where we just have a fun time, like we usually do every week. But the problem is I started to realize as I was going through things on the internet, on especially with everyone who's mourning and talking about the news that happened last week, I realized that even though a lot of Yidden are speaking up about it, but not enough. Whether it's people reposting Charlie Kirk's messages about Eretz Yisrael and his support for Yidden, but not enough people in long length talking about what it means for us Yidden at this time. I heard someone saying there's something from Rabbi Jacobson. I want to look that up also later. But I basically want to talk to you guys about it and what it means for us Yidden at this time. And I think it'll be a fun discussion. I also want to for sure point out that even though this is a topic that is very charged with a lot of things online, just putting it as low as I can, with a lot of things online and so on, I do want to emphasize that in no way, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about today, what we're going to look and show, but I'm kind of going free on the free flow with this. But also, I want to emphasize also that anything that we show that kind of go against what we want to do on this show right now, whether it's because right now I just want to talk and I want to talk with you guys about this topic, and not necessarily do I want to publicize or promote anything or emphasize on any action to be taken. This is just us talking about this topic, especially how it affects, again, I keep saying it, but how it affects us. I guess let's start with from the beginning, how I found out about it. I'm sure everyone knows where they were when they found out about it. I was in school. It was around 3:20. School is very busy for me. I'm not looking at any messages really. And I was in the middle of a project, filming something for school. And I get a message on one of my friends' chats with a bunch of friends of ours. And I also a reminder, I forgot to say, please comment below. I want to give shout outs. I want to answer any questions and anyone who wants to chime in into the discussion. Anyway, I was doing the project and a friend message, a chat was blowing up. So I look and it's a video of Charlie Kirk. And I didn't press on it. And I thought, I was excited. I was like, oh, like my friend who sent it, like he's at one of these things. It's pretty cool. And I started playing it. And unfortunately, it was one of the close-ups that showed what happened. And at first I was shocked, but then I was like, it's AI. Like, I did not believe it for a second. So the first thing I did was search up Charlie Kirk on Google and check the news, and it was blowing up like you wouldn't believe. I mean, even some were saying that even on X, on Twitter, it was having a very hard time running. It was slow, it was glitchy because of how much the discussions were online. Then I saw on my YouTube feed that there was some podcast that was on live, and I was like, it wasn't even something political podcast or anything. It was just a fun podcast that I listened to, and it said that, and I'm like, if it's a live podcast, they're for sure saying something about this. Like, there's no way a podcast that is live is not talking about this. It doesn't matter what type of show it was. So the next thing I see, so yeah, I'm watching it and they're reacting to it. But then for a second, I got up because I had to finish a project. And after school was over, I went back to my office and I went to this political channel. I'm not going to shout it out or anything because, again, I'm not promoting anything. I'm just discussing the events. And yeah, and messages started coming in the chats and things of confirmed, not confirmed. He stabilized, and it was confirmed also on the news for a little bit that it was compromised. There was a glimpse of hope, and the tefillos and prayers of everybody. There was a little hope, but then like 10 minutes later, the chats really started blowing up. And again, chats and the internet that are not reliable sources, you can't say, but it started fading. The hope of his survival started fading. And then it happened that it was confirmed that he had passed away. And correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone's listening, but I believe that he passed away right as they were prepping him in the hospital, or right at the beginning. And the reason why there was a little bit of him being stabilized was because of the news of him in the ambulance or when they started going in. But yeah, back to the video that I saw. I just want to say that it was pretty shocking, and no one should watch those videos of the actual assassination, of the close up. I saw it once, I saw it twice. I think it was real, but I haven't seen it since. First of all, it was very traumatizing in a way, but also like no one should be watching this type of thing. And there are people online, not Yidden, but Goyim, that say like, oh, everyone should watch it once because it's a symbol. I don't think so. No one should be watching such videos of the close-ups, at least. It's not right. And also, if you think back to October 7th, when Hamas and the Arab and the media was putting out pretty graphic pictures and stuff, the Rabbanim said that no one should be watching it, any of them. And I think that's the same thing with this instance. I was angry when I heard the news. I was angry. I was angry for a lot of reasons. I think I was angry because of both the realization of what we had become, where we got to. I was also angry out of also a bit of denial, like this can't be real. And even now, for me, it didn't really sink in, not at all. But still, the idea that we got to this point, it's crazy, and it's scary. It's scary because of people of this that can happen to anybody. And I think that's why I was also angry, also as a defense mechanism of me being scared. How can you not be? But it was. And I was also angry because of just what happened. Someone speaking the truth, having a different opinion than other people, doing something that he loved, got him killed. This is mamish the times of Mashiach, where we hear so much about how when it's the darkest of the darkest, that's when Mashiach comes. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai even says that the Gula comes even at a time of whatever status, and it doesn't matter what status of how Yidden are when it comes to tshuva. It's true. But yeah, and I was angry. I was in my office for an hour. I didn't feel like I could have drove back to yeshiva. The whole thing was shocking. And if you think about it, I kind of had the same shock at first when I heard about Trump's assassination assassination attempt, and the whole idea of the shock, and then the shock that he survived by a nace, and everyone knew that the country was better for it. Everyone knew that thank Hashem, thank God that Trump didn't, that the person successfully didn't kill Trump. Because we knew that the country, that the world dodged a big bullet. And then this happened. And I kind of felt, and everyone felt the opposite. That the bullet was taken, not dodged. By everyone. And it was crazy. It was a crazy time because no one knew how people would react. No one knew. But I knew that, and that me and my friends, we would be angry, but we wouldn't necessarily, that we wouldn't give into what they want us to be. These people, Mishagayim, Rishayim, want us to act up. Nothing happened. And not only that, but the opposite happened. Everybody was mourning on the street. Everyone went to pray, to mourn. Everyone gathered. Everyone. And it wasn't even like they were praying to Yashka or anything. They were just simply standing up because there was nothing else that you could do. No one knew how to take those feelings, and the best thing they could do is to put it into goodness and kindness. But they wanted us to react the way the media has always said how we should react. They wanted us to react the way that they always said that the normal people would. They wanted us to be like what happened during COVID with BLM. They wanted such a thing to happen, and they wanted the evil to come out of good people. And the opposite happened. Only good came out from good people since that fateful day. And the more I think about it, every day it just gives me a whole new perspective of how anything could happen in this world, especially in Gullus. Especially in Gullus. I see I've been ranting for about 18 minutes, so I'll just get to the Q&As and to chats. Naharai Uziel, the GOAT, miss you. When are you coming back? Where's Daniel? Shout me out, please. Yes, shout out to Naharai. Shady Brady 911 says, Uziel, what's good? Hi, have you been? Baruch Hashem. I've been well. Okay. I want to look up Rabbi Jacobson because I haven't seen this clip. There's something he was talking about. See what he said. Is this it? Trying to see if this is the clip. No, this is Hebrew. No, wait 1 second. Let me see. YY Jacobson. Meanwhile, I'm looking for this. Please, everyone, comment below. I want to see. I want to give out the shout outs and the proper Q&As to everybody. I'm trying to see if there's something here. Try to see. Yeah, so this is Rabbi Jacobson. I'm just gonna share my screen so I can watch with you. I never watched this yet, so I'm gonna react to it, see, and I'll tell you my thoughts. Do you see it? It should go like this. No, does this work? No, I'll just play like this. Okay, fine. All right, let's see what Simon Jacobson says. Rabbi YY Jacobson.
We, the Jewish people, will forever, ever be grateful to the great person, the great soul of Charlie Kirk, for what he has done for truth and goodness and kindness at the most difficult hour of modern Jewish history following the massacres of October 7th, 2023. It's nothing but astonishing to have watched the magnitude of Charlie's audacity, authenticity, sincerity, and sacrifice to stand up for morality, for compassion, for truth, single-handedly going from university to university, confronting the most vile of statements and emotions, supporting the beheading of children, the raping of women, and the burning alive of innocent Jews whose crime is Jewish blood flowing through their sinews. And the way Charlie took on that cause with so much dignity and so much determination. Wow, what a soul. His memory will always bless us. We, the Jewish people.
100%. 100%. And as I said before, he was shot for him simply doing something that he has been doing for years. These people kept going up to him again and again and again about anything, and especially about Eretz Yisrael. Especially about Eretz Yisrael. And that got to a point where they had nothing else to tell him. And we've seen this time and time again, where there were students that would shout at him and say things, and to the point where they couldn't say anything else, they stormed out, they made a fuss. It kept happening. And now we got to a point where they had nothing else but to take up arms and to shoot him because they had nothing else to say. Nothing. And he was like the only real person that could even though a lot of times, yes, he when you would argue for Eretz Yisrael and for Yiddishkeit, against anti-Semites, when they would bring stuff up, he did have some mistakes, but he knew what he was saying. So when you have someone that he knew that did the research, or as much research as a guy could, against someone that just spurs out lies out of their hearts and mouths, what do you expect to happen? Of course he would win time and time again. And the thing is that he symbolized what everyone was thinking. He symbolized the common person's values and morals and opinions. Anyone else could have been at that table at every university. But he stood up and showed everybody what it means to stand up and talk. That is why I'm doing this live stream today, because I can't say this. There's not enough of us Yidden that are speaking out about this in length. And especially at a time where after, I hate to say October 7th, because in general, October 7th is like an English date. So I always try to say Simchas Torah Pei Daled. Was it Pei Daled? No, it was Pei Gimel. One second. Vav Hey Daled. Pei. So yeah, Simchas Torah Ayin Pei Daled. So on Simchas Torah, that faithful Simchas Torah, at the moment where we thought that everyone, anybody, our neighbors, people on the street, were all having opinions against us, as many generations of Goyim have been. And then comes this man, Charlie Kirk, and showed and sincerely stood up for the truth. It's one thing when people debate Yidden, like the famous ones like Ben Shapiro, or when Rabbanim go in conversations with Goyim on YouTube and on stuff. But for it to come for one of them, one of the Goyim, it shows something. And it even showed us Yidden that there were good people out there and we weren't alone. So I saw when I was looking at Simon Jacobson that there was also why Jacobson, there's also Simon Jacobson, what he was saying. So I'll let's see what he said.
So perhaps this can serve as a wake-up call, I guess, to those that are the more the thoughtful people among us.
Is it, one second, maybe he has a whole statement. Let's see. Yeah, okay, fine. So let's watch this whole video. Here, let's go.
The chilling murder of Charlie Kirk has shaken up the United States and the entire world. The murder of every individual should shake us up. When a human being is killed, especially in cold blood, is the death of a universe. Is the death of the human being created in the divine image.
And that's the crazy thing. The crazy thing is that you have people literally speeding out pure joy over his death. This was a person. This was a father, a husband, a neighbor, a fellow American, and most importantly, one of the Abishter's creations. And you have these people, seriously, it makes me angry. You have these people that are literally just pure evil coming out of them. And then when it's a group of people, then you could point it to someone. But when it's a lot of people, you have to point to something. And it's true, the media, the legacy access media has literally And by the way, us Yidden has experiences too with Eretz Yisrael, especially with the lies and the statements and the lack of evidence that has been spewing against people like Charlie, like us Yidden, like Eretz Yisrael. What do you expect people to do when they're literally sitting on their couch watching this garbage all day? It comes to this.
The ultimate desecration of everything sacred and divine captured in a human being's life. And this makes no difference if they're from the right or from the left, Democrat or Republican, whatever.
It doesn't matter. And the only one that actually thinks it matters is these people that rejoice and do these things. But when it comes to a human being, none of these matter. He's saying, Rabbi Jacobson is saying everything that I'm saying right now. I know I'm repeating what he's saying, but the point is, it's frustrating. That's why I'm venting right here. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated. And it's not even about, and I'm frustrated about many things, but it's this point here, what he's saying. Again, I haven't watched this yet. So every word he's saying, it's funny because every word he's saying, I've experienced it, these thoughts and these motions throughout this week. Throughout the week. But then hearing it, it really brings out everything I'm thinking right now and want to say.
Religion, background, race, color. Every human being is sacred. What is particularly disturbing in this particular situation, what I'd like to speak about, is firstly where it took place. Utah Valley University, a campus, yet another campus, the place that was supposed to be protected from all the hostility and violence of the world.
It's been so corrupted for years. It's been corrupted, and there's even evidence of how the Arab nations that not every single Muslim or Arab, but the ones that seek the destruction of our people, the Jewish people, have been funding and funneling money into these universities. What do you expect people, these children, to learn when they're there every day in classes, swallowing, gasping, or grasping? It's more like it, but every trash talk that these people say every day. And by the way, the scariest thing was, it wasn't just students there. Obviously, when Charlie Kirk did these events, everyone was there. But it was, you know who else was there? His wife and children. They were there bearing witness to the ultimate fate of their father, her husband. It's despicable.
Schools where our children go to study. And secondly, the reason we don't yet know who the murderer is and what conspiracy was.
So obviously he put the statement right after. I'll also visit the other clip where I guess it was a day ago or 2 days ago, but yeah,
behind it. But here was a man exercising his right, freedom of speech. Yes, he has strong opinions. Some people disagreed with them, but he spoke about them peacefully. He was a man of peace. I just heard one of the things that struck me, where he said, if we don't communicate with each other, even if we disagree, we ultimately dehumanize each other. And dehumanization will always lead to ultimately violating each other's rights, including our.
So that is also true. And if you could imagine, if let's say Charlie Kirk was doing the 10 years of open debate, civil debate, if he was doing it way earlier, would that be better? Because the more this ideology and the more these things that led to this moment continue to happen, and the rot that continues rotting, the mold that continues growing, would that have been better if he did it earlier? Who knows? But what this assassin did to Charlie, he proved his point and showed it to the world that once you stop talking, you dehumanize the other person. Your ego takes you to places which you don't want to be taken. The Erev Rashab, I believe it was the Erev Rashab, but maybe it was the Marash. He talks about in a mimer. He talks about the idea of Kaas, what brings people to anger, and how it's comes to when a person has a Metzias, he has a Yesh. And when the person feels like he's being violated, where someone else, his opponent, is taking up that space. That's what Kaas comes from. It comes from ego. It comes from a Metzias, a Yesh. So what do you expect when a person gets to that point? This person made it his Metzias and his Yesh about an ideology, about a difference of opinion, and took it to the, and his Yesh was so big that he couldn't even explain. He couldn't even face the man to explain his side, his views. But what? This happened.
Each other's lives. A man who engaged, and especially was able to capture something very few people can capture, the minds and hearts of young adults. Regardless of his opinions, regardless whether you agree with his opinions, but he should be shot down because he's voicing his opinion. Now, some of you may wonder, would I say the same thing if this happened to a left-wing activist? Absolutely. Because it has nothing to do with the opinions.
That's and that is absolutely true. And that's why when I was listening, watching, again, I'm not trying to promote any channel, so I'm not going to say really names, but when I was watching a debate about this subject, and there was a left streamer, you obviously could probably guess who it is by now, who literally said on live TV that he will not condemn what happened if the right don't condemn overall violence. What does that mean? What does that mean? That you have to mamish stick your whole meshugada mind based on others to the point where you can't even say how terrible it was that they had to mock his family. They have to mock what he stood for. Disgusting.
Has to do how we look at each other and the very sanctity of life. And that's what he advocated. How could anyone disagree with that? That we should be able to communicate with each other. So much has been written and so much more will be written by people who knew him personally. I know some individuals who knew him personally. With a loving family, his wife Erika and his children, who he cherished. And the many friends that he fostered, some that agreed and some didn't agree. Staunch, unapologetic positions for the sanctity of life, for the freedoms we all cherish, And yes, as a Jew, I could say for the Jewish people, for Israel, to silence a man like that, I can understand why, because he was able to inspire a young generation to support a conservative right-wing position. And there are people who just don't accept that as legitimate.
That's also another thing. They shot him because he was effective. They shot him because he was doing something that was working. They shot him because he was doing what many could have done and did not. But because he did it, or perhaps better, because someone was doing it, it was working. Common sense prevails. The truth prevails. If you look back at a podcast that I had with Minus Freeman, he literally says that it all comes down to MS. It all comes down to truth. That is the solution to everything, every problem, every conflict. The truth. So what happens when a person comes to a point where he has no truth left in him? He goes to the exact opposite. Takes the olive out of MS. Gets to a point where he can't stand the truth. That's literally why they did it.
But back to that point, you don't agree with something, why are you dehumanizing? Why do we personalize it? Character assassination. So now some of the websites are removing some of their more insightful rhetoric.
Yeah, literally minutes. There was MSNBC or NBC. I forgot what now. They're all the same. They're all funded by the same people. Literally, there was a person that goes like, "Oh, what do you expect when this rhetoric gets too much, and hate leads to more hate?" Within minutes, they fired him, and it's going out through. You can't imagine how many positions and jobs out there people were fired from because of how they were behaving after this happened. It's crazy. And that was a big hope for me. But then you have to question, did people do this? The companies do this because they sincerely think that it was wrong? Or because of the backlash if they didn't do anything? I hope it's the first. I hope it's because it's the right thing to do. I hope that's the reason.
Makes sense, sensitivity, but can we really change? There's no redeeming factor to such a death. But one thing for sure, that if we don't learn our lessons, and we don't finally get not to the symptoms, but to the root of the issues, and the root of the issue is, yes, the sanctity of life, and that people can disagree, even adamantly, but still respect the dignity of a.
I would also add that it's not just a sanctity of life. It's a sanctity of life being taught. The Rebbe always emphasized about education, what it means, how much does it affect us. And Charlie Kirk said these arguments too. It all comes down to education of the sanctity of life. But the moment you allow and you enable people to act on their feelings in a violent way, and not just any feelings, personal attacking feelings, it's all rotten, and things have to change.
Person's right to express themselves. Frankly, the success of this country is built precisely on that. The e pluribus unum, from the many one, meaning that we have diversity and strong and even differing and contradictory opinions. But ultimately, it's all part of one larger symphony. I know it sounds poetic, especially in this context where the body is still warm. But the word outrage or the word shock seems to be inadequate. And again, I want to make this very clear. You say, why don't I do a video every day about every murder out there? The truth is I should. Unfortunately, there's just too many. But here it's far more representative.
Yeah, and yeah, it's true. Like, and by the way, the people that make that argument, oh, so why don't you make a whole story about every single killing? We got to a point where there's death fatigue. On COL, someone was saying how when people post about people passing away, that people tend to scroll past it. And it is a problem. It is a problem, but it goes back to the same issue. There's a huge fatigue. And it's not just any fatigue, it's gullus. That's what gullus is. It's worse when gullus is a point where even there's a fatigue of people not accepting the fact that this is not the time for us to be in. That it's time for Mashiach to come now and to be a whole different time where we could go, oh my gosh. We could look back and go, what was that? It was like a dream. But yeah, I'm just going to go 5 seconds because he was about to make a point, which I totally agree.
Unfortunately, there's just too many. But here it's far more representative of a shift that must change. I would like someone to make a case that disagrees with me, using Charlie Kirk's staple approach. Prove me wrong. Would you disagree with anything I just said? And if yes, what's the reason behind it? And even if you did, should you love me less? Should I love you less? So it goes back to what defines us. If we're defined by our opinions, if we're defined by people we agree or disagree with, and frankly, the media and so many other of the public so-called information dissemination is feeding the flames. Without mentioning names, a while back, I was invited to be on a panel on one of the major media networks. They wanted me to accuse the other party of being an anti-Semite. I've been on media, so I'm on those lists of the producers, I guess. They wanted me to call the person an anti-Semite. And I said to them in the pre-interview to the producer, I can't say this person is anti-Semite. I don't know them. I could say an act or certain words or behavior sounds anti-Semite.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You can't call a person a title, which I always grew up saying, like, you should never call someone a liar, because that means that every single thing they say is a lie. But that's not true. That's not true. What people say could be wrong, could be a lie, but they themselves are not the title that people want to give them based on their opinions. It's not what human, it's not moral. It's not moral to call someone something based on one or two things that they have said or they have proclaimed. Unless, of course, if that title actually defines what they are. If a rabbi gives a Dvar Torah, you call him a rabbi, not because he says a Dvar Torah, but because that's his title. But then if every single person says a Dvar Torah, you're not going to call him a rabbi. There's much more than that. There's smicha, there's certification. So if you want to call someone a negative title, it has to be based on pure evidence that that is what they are. Not that that's because of what they said. Not at all.
Semitic. No, we need you to accuse them of being anti-Semite. And not only that, we need you to yell. And I said, but that's not my style. I can speak firmly. I speak and in a very resolved and non-compromising fashion, but I have my style. And I remember she tells me, no, but that's not what we need. We need blood. Gladiators, I'm putting it that way, it's become entertainment. I need to yell at that person.
And also, that's also why I don't want to say the names of those people that I saw that said the despicable things, immoral things, because that's what they want. They want to become that icon. They want to be clicked on every single day just because of a thumbnail or title. That even though it's the wrong, immoral, despicable thing that they could take upon. That's why I don't want to mention their names, because that is literally what they want us to do.
Person yells at me, and that's what gets ratings. And this was told to me very explicitly. They didn't take me onto the show because I refused to agree to yell, and I refused to call for blood. I said, why can't we disagree in an intelligent manner? Television and media is not intelligence, I was told. It's entertainment. It's to engage people, to get them riled up. We need them to come back and feel that they can be stimulated by these programs. So all the cliches and all the cynicism and all those films made about...
And I've mentioned this so many times in my podcast when I talk to actors or writers or directors, is that now the culture has shifted. People want authenticity. They don't want entertainment because of entertainment. They want entertainment because of authenticity. So if you have an open debate, like Rabbi Jacobson saying, he was there to talk as a representative of what they called him for that panel. But what? They didn't want that. They wanted entertainment because of pure entertainment. They want the clicks, the rivalry, because in their eyes, that's entertainment. It's sick. People do not want to see these things. When you see open debates like what Charlie did, that's what people wanted to watch because that was authentic. And of course, it was entertaining. Whether it's because of people enjoying these things happening because of authenticity, or it's because how everything was presented. But the point was, what drew people to this point of enjoying normalcy, common sense, is because it's authentic. It's innocent. So what do you expect from these people when they are just when they're swallowing what should not have been publicized or talked about in the first place?
Media manipulation is not so off, which only contributes to the cynicism and to the skepticism of where we to gain truth from. So perhaps this is a wake-up call for us to return. I remember my grandfather telling me, my grandfather was from the old country, from former Soviet Union. And he said to me, my father was a journalist, and my grandfather used to like to jab him at times. He said to me once, my grandfather, everything in the newspaper is a lie. I said, Zayd, Grandpa, this is America here, free press. He says, yeah, but who decides what should be a headline? I'm not talking about an earthquake or a major event that everybody objectively knows is a major piece of news, but the rest of the headlines. And then he threw out this line nonchalantly. Even the date when the newspaper was printed is a lie. It was printed the night before. So as you get older, you'll understand.
That's pretty deep.
So I'm not from those conspiracy theorists, but there's a lot of truth to the subjectivity, and especially when the media decides it's their civic duty to bring someone down. So perhaps this can serve as a wake-up call, I guess, to those that are the thoughtful people among us, that don't get caught up in this rhetoric, don't get caught up in this polarization, that we should start looking for truth in here, in the human condition, in human interaction. And that is the legacy that Charlie Kirk left.
Amen.
Discussions, conversations. You want to debate? By all means, make your best case. But at the end...
Why do you think for the past 5-10 years, the most famous platforms are the podcasts? And of course, like Charlie Kirk debates, but the point is these conversations. People from different sides of the aisle, whether they are sincere about what they're saying or not, But the point is that the fact that two people had a conversation, whether it was a debate or just a sincere friendly conversation, people gravitate towards. But ever since this happened, it's become a realization that there's more than just what people want. It's what people need. People need the discourse. People need the conversation. Everything needs to be put out in the open with our mouths, not with our hands.
Smile. Don't personalize. Don't assassinate, character-wise or worse. And that's what breaks my heart, because all human beings have the dignity, as the founding fathers put it in the Declaration of Independence, said very loud and clear, we find these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and the Creator has endowed us with inalienable rights, including the rights of freedom of expression and all the freedoms and the rights that the Declaration declares. As we approach the 250th year of this great country, it's time to re-embrace that. And creator is used, the word creator, because that's an all equalizer, that all of us, no matter who we are, were created in the divine image, and as such have an absolute indispensable right to our lives and to our choices and to our expressions, but never the right to dehumanize or to hurt or worse, kill another human being. That to me is the headline here. And that has been so terribly desecrated. The only way you repair, you redeem that, is by celebrating and honoring and dignifying life with more passion than those that hate life and are willing to destroy life. May God bless us that we should have that wake-up call, each individual in our own homes. Talk about it with your children. Talk about the sanctity of life, sanctity of your life, sanctity of the life of your family members, of our community, and even of strangers, of all human beings on this earth. That's the only way we redeem things like this, by actually talking about it, but more than talking about it, embracing it. It should become part and parcel of our conversation. Yes, at home, from the youngest age, in schools, on campuses. That should be the predominant headlines, instead of us being manipulated and young impressionable minds being used by all kinds of agendas, many of them quite nefarious. Again, we should be blessed to finally come to a point where there will be no more evil or destruction, because the divine knowledge will fill the world.
Amen.
As the waters cover the sea. Be blessed and be well.
Amen. Totally agree. Totally agree. And the fact that people have stooped so low that this has become numb to them.
Friend.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. I'm checking if there's any comments so we can continue with the discourse and the Q&As. I want to go to the next video of Simon Jacobson, where he talks about Charlie Kirk. Again, I never watched this. As you see, there's no bar. If he talks about how much deeper this goes, but I do want to go more emotional and more personal. Charlie Kirk's wife, Erika, addressed the nation, and I barely watched it. I watched the first half. I couldn't go through the whole thing, but for the stream, I think it's important. So I guess we'll watch it. I'm trying to see if there's a better quality. Yeah, basically to me, it's just sad not just because a human being passed away, but because he left children, a wife. How do you how does anyone move on to that point? From that point? It just makes no sense. So, yeah. Um I might get emotional, but it's important. So, let's do this.
Jesus. Good evening. My name is Erika Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband.
Also, a warning: if they're a very Christian valued family, so I don't want to skip too much, but I want to get to the main points of why we're doing the stream. So if it ever gets to discussions about Christianity and stuff, I'm just gonna skip a little bit. But yeah,
I first want to thank the local, state, and federal law enforcement who worked tirelessly to capture my husband's assassin so that he can be brought to justice. I want to thank the first responders who struggled heroically to save Charles's life, and the police who acted bravely to make sure that there were no other victims on that terrible afternoon. I want to thank the officers who have protected our Turning Point USA family these past 2 days. And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy, for all their work in these terrible days to be the stability for our family and for the wider Turning Point USA family as well.
gosh,
My heart is with every one of my husband's employees who lost a friend and a mentor.
I remember when this came out. I was not expecting such a thing to come up. It was a shock. And what strength and courage, truly.
I want to thank the staffers of his amazing Charlie Kirk show who helped him broadcast from this studio, this chair. Every day he loved it. He loved what he did. I want to thank the millions of people who have shown their love for Charlie here in Phoenix, across America, and worldwide. I want to thank my husband's dear friend, Vice President Vance, and his phenomenal wife, Usha, for their love and support. You guys honored my husband so well bringing him home. You both are tremendous. I want to thank President Trump and his incredible family for the same. Mr. President, my husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. You supported him so well, as did he for you.
If only everyone in the country understands, like the whole idea of. I always said when I was younger, like, isn't a president considered a melech, right? Because there's some halachas that we have to do because of a melech. But then it's like, only when you're older do you realize, like, how different it is to be a president. Mainly also because the whole idea of a president, he's not a king. So then what happens to people that don't respect him? It's literally our obligation, according to Allah, also to be patriots. And I think Patriots has a lot of different dynamics, but in my opinion, one of the things is to respect the president. But that being said, if the wrong person is the president, of course, as Americans, we have the right and the obligation to call out what must be done or anything wrong. But to outright say that we want to kill our president, to outright celebrate those that fought for the country. You didn't see this in the previous administrations. No one did. But now this happens. And you just wonder, like, it's too difficult to talk about it.
2 days ago, my husband, Charlie, went to see the face of his Savior and his God. He
We should go skip a little bit.
Loved life. He loved his life. He loved America. He loved nature, which helped him always bring him closer to God. He loved the Chicago Cubs. And my goodness, did he love the Oregon Ducks. Want me to say go Ducks, so I have to since they play on Saturday. So go Ducks. But most of all, Charlie loved his children. And he loved me with all of his heart. And I knew that. Every day I knew that. He made sure I knew that every day. Every day he would ask me, how can I serve you better? How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? Every day. Every day. He was such a good man. He still is a good man. He was the perfect father. He was the perfect husband. Charlie always believed that God's design for marriage and the family was absolutely amazing, and it is. It is, and it was the greatest joy of his life. And over, he would tell all these young people to come and find their future spouse, become wives and husbands and parents. And the reason why is because he wanted you all to experience what he had and still has. He wanted everyone to bring heaven into this earth through love and joy that comes from raising a family. It's beautiful.
And that's what he represented. That's why I wanted to show from this clip. That he literally symbolized what a person could be as an American. And one of the things is community. There's a reason why the Jewish nation, the Yidden, have a higher rate of life, of population every day. Not the highest, but getting bigger. Because of the morals that comes with trusting and believing in the Eberster. Okay, I want to get to this the real stuff. As we titled the video, A Light Amongst the Nations. Because Mamish, Charlie was one of the biggest vocal defenders of Eretz Yisrael throughout the entire over 2-year span of time. Yeah, I missaid that word. We're through this again. It's not a war. It's defeating terrorism.
How's it going, Mr. Kirk? I'm a big fan of yours, and I just had a few things I wanted to question you about. I'm pretty sure, based off the content that you've produced that you're evangelical Christian and you subscribe to dispensationalism. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, no. I'm very sympathetic towards the dispensationalist view. So let me just pause you. This is going to go over a lot of people's head. Okay. So if it's okay, let's keep this short, if that's okay, because this is a very wonky theological topic. But yes.
Well, that's not a... So...
It probably to do with Israel, maybe? Is that...
Israel.
Okay, got it. Yeah, okay.
So...
How did I know?
That's the only thing.
Can I explain what dispensationalism is to the audience?
Go ahead.
Okay, so dispensationalism is a view in evangelical world of which I'm very sympathetic towards, that God has an unfolding plan for the end times. Dispensationalism is typically what is called pre-trib, pre-millennial, which means that there is a rapture, meaning that God will bring home his faithful in a pre-tribulation, pre-millennialist, before the reign of Christ 1,000 years over earth, to heaven.
Yeah. Again, it's not because I'm trying to quite anything. I just don't want to get into the Christian stuff part of it because I'm trying to get to the main points.
Read you some verses from the New Testament. Just get your opinion on
Okay,
those.
we got to go quick. This is going to go over.
Okay. I'm going to go to a different Israel topic here.
Since the massacres of October the 7th, Israel has been hard hit by more.
Yeah. Shout out to Mike Huckabee, the new ambassador of Eretz Yisrael. Great guy. And despite what Americans think of Eretz Yisrael, they're up there with Charlie Kirk of the Defender of Eretz Yisrael. He's doing a great job.
Hey, good afternoon. You got it. Hey, good afternoon. How are you? Yeah. I just wanted to get your opinion on the funding of AIPAC and the alleged buying out of the U.S. Congress, especially with everything going on overseas and the highly criticized and debated two-party state between Israel and the Palestinian people.
My opinion of AIPAC?
How would you curb or resolve the issue? Not just AIPAC. We have our own domestic issues, but they're coming in and earning $28 billion for their donation of $43.5 to the U.S. Congress. So our foreign, our proxies and our donations to Ukraine and the state of Israel.
So how would I curb that?
Yeah.
I mean, well, look, understand, AIPAC is constituted of Americans that are advocating for a foreign policy thing they care about. And it's a very dangerous road to be on. There are groups of Armenians that advocate for the recognition of the Armenian genocide. There are groups of American Indians that recognize for better relations with India. And it just so happens there are a lot of American Jews that argue for a very strong relationship with Israel. So can I better understand the question?
So how do you feel about America using Israel as a proxy, and the Apollo affair and Levant affair and the Gulf Wars and the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq?
That's the thing. The Rebbe always said that Eretz Yisrael should not ask America for permission for things. Like the point where, because this is one of the examples, because Eretz Yisrael is a country, a symbolism of a place for Yidden, a place for the world. And why on earth are we going to the, again, this is not against anything and not against my country, but a country like Eretz Yisrael should not be going to America for permission to do things. Should we be allies? Of course. Should we help each other out? Disclose information? I believe so. But asking permission is a no-no for Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, there's a lot there. So how do I think of Israel as an ally? Is that what you're asking? Or?
As America using it as a proxy to keep a chokehold on the Middle East.
Well, I kind of reject the premise of that. I mean, I'm very pro-Israel. I don't think they're perfect. I think they do a lot that I wouldn't do and that I don't support. But I don't know. I would better argue that Israel is a complicated ally of the United States, but very necessary in the Middle East.
Yes.
Yes, and people tend to forget about that. There's literally a meme. I forgot. I'll find it somewhere. But it's it shows there's a boulder, and it's called Hamas, and there's a giant called Eretz Yisrael, right? So the giant is stopping the boulder, and the boulder's so heavy, so the giant is holding it for dear life. And the moment that the giant, while trying to stop the boulder, tips other nations, then the world is angry at Eretz Yisrael, not the boulder, but the one that's stopping the boulder. It's insane.
And why so?
For many reasons, for military technology sharing, for data sharing, for also they're a free society in an island of totalitarianism.
Yeah. So a Western power based on imperialism and imperialistic tendencies.
Well, Not necessarily. No, I mean, they're their own sovereign country with their own
Yeah.
elections, their own country, right?
Mhm.
Do you think Israel has a right to exist?
I do, and I believe in a two-party solution, but I don't
A
believe in
two-state
the
solution?
two-state solution. But I don't believe in the genocide and displacement of 1.7 million Palestinian people because
The two-state solution is a joke because A, how can you have a two-state solution when there's other countries, not states, countries of the people that represent what type of people are in Gaza are literally up there destroying us every day with countless rockets. And now you want a two-state solution? How does that work? When even a country like Iran, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, with the history that they have against Eretz Yisrael, and that doesn't work, how do you expect it to work now?
if you advocate for life, you advocate for all life
Okay,
around the
so
world.
so let's make sure we get our terms right. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what is a genocide?
Mass killing of people.
Okay,
And a
mass.
targeted mass killing of people.
Is that what Israel is doing?
Yes, most definitely.
How?
So you're telling me?
Hold on. Let's get back.
Yeah.
Did Hamas then commit a genocide on October 7th?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me get there. Yes.
Based on your so both sides are committing genocide.
But since 48, we have the partition plan of 1947. We have the transfer agreement in 1933. There's so much that built up to it. The Warsaw Ghetto.
Okay,
uprising.
so it's justified to
long
go into
history.
nurseries and.
No, they didn't do that. Where's your
Oh no,
evidence?
they did.
Okay.
No, hold on, time out.
If you want
Where's
to go
the
to
evidence?
Utter denial of evidence. But then when they want to present titles or they want to brand things or brand, for example, Eretz Yisrael, oh, where's your evidence there? Oh, we don't have. But then when the right thing, the true thing is happening and there's tons of evidence, Hamas was literally live streaming their very own despicable actions against humanity. Oh, but we can't justify that. Make up your mind. Either you call people because of truth, or you just keep your mouth shut because no one needs to hear this garbage.
Times, then I can pull up a list.
Where's the
200
evidence? I could show you
Israel has-
GoPro footage.
I'll show you footage.
Hold on
of
a
it.
second. GoPro footage of hours uninterrupted of Hamas terrorists wearing GoPros going into rock concerts and indiscriminately women, kidnapping them and bringing them back to Gaza. If you'd like to watch that footage, you can. But you said, so I need a clear answer. Just make sure I'm clear.
Yeah.
A genocide is the targeted mass killing of people.
Yes,
So
sir, most
Hamas is guilty of genocide.
Yeah, but correlating up. Okay, do you believe in? This is off topic. What?
No, I'm glad you said yes.
No,
Off topic. Yeah. So when I have nothing else to show you to prove to you that you're wrong, I have to go off topic. It makes no sense.
of rights. Look.
So
the
therefore,
Second, Third, and Fourth Amendment. Do you believe in them?
yes, the right to bear arms, the right not to have soldiers quartered, and the right to
and-
privacy. We can keep
Exactly.
going. The right to fish.
So, as
right against
Israel has been
self-incrimination.
violating those for nearly the course of 100 years, how would you feel if you invite someone into your home and you let them stay as a guest when they were oppressed?
Well, hold on a sec. So, first of all, the Second Amendment is not applicable outside of the shores of the United
Yeah.
States. So, not sure where you're going with that. But I want to make sure let me just have you answer this final question.
Yes.
If a foreign power commits genocide against you, as you admit
Yes.
Hamas did, how should Israel respond?
Okay. Yeah.
No, but so
look, I'm saying.
how should Israel respond? Genocide
they're
was committed.
Yeah, they always hit that wall. Oh, this is not how Israel should do it. Oh, so how should they? How? Come up with a better solution. There isn't, because you have to defeat the enemy. You have to destroy the enemy. That's how it works. If you can't come up with a different solution, why? Because there is no other solution.
To defend themselves, most definitely, but not to the extent they have done. It's killing 65,000 people.
First of all,
1,200 and bombing civilian areas. 70% of their casualties are women and children, and the average age of a child in Gaza is 18 years old.
So first of all,
so where are we drawing the line and the shade of gray between black and white? Who's right? Who's wrong? We don't know.
well, who started it?
Israel, most definitely.
Hold on.
The Arab-Israeli war.
Hold on a second. Time
This
out.
has been going
on
for
October
50,
6th, the day
yes.
before, was there an act of war?
Yes, prior. Why do you think there's a group of resistance living there? When resistance happened.
Okay, no, I can.
By the way, I agree with him. There was an act of war on October 6th. Yes, there was an act of war before that by the very ones that so-called started from October 7th. No. That's not how it went. Eretz Yisrael has always been defending itself. But what? Again, it's back to what we're saying and what Simon Jacobson was saying. There's a fatigue. There's a fatigue that people are not paying attention to Eretz Yisrael being attacked by other nations because it happened for the past almost 2 decades. So what do you expect?
So I just want to make sure I understand the argument that this has been a bubbling up conflict since the 1950s.
It has been prior to the 50s.
Let me answer you a question. Israel got out of Gaza in the early 2000s.
Yes.
Gave it to Hamas.
But if they're still ruling over,
why were they not able to create a nice place in Gaza?
Because Israel is holding their materials and their right. It is illegal.
So do you see a through line here, guys? And it's important though. It's always somebody else's fault.
Don't speak over me, please. Let me ask
well, it actually is my deal, but that's fine. So it is always somebody else's fault, right?
No,
so
I'm saying there's wrong on both sides, most definitely, but more on the side of Israel. It's unsanctioned and unreasoned to go and kill that many people for no reason.
There's so many things that are wrong about these statements because once you say, oh, there's something wrong with both sides, then you're taking away the legitimacy of calling Hamas a terrorist organization. Why? Because there's 2 sides that are doing wrong. No, there's one, and it's a terrorist group. And the fact that you're saying that a bunch of things were building up to the point where 2 sides are in the wrong. Oh, so wait, you're saying that Israel's responsible somewhat for a terrorist organization killing their own and Yidden.
Well, give me the equation. I want to make sure I understand.
You believe in an eye for an eye, right?
Generally, but I just want to know the equation, though.
So this is politics. They can negotiate. We can release prisoners. We can embargo
which they are.
Okay, yeah, as going on.
And you admit
they are not hostages. Yes, okay, at least this guy is somewhat reasonable saying that it's prisoners. But the fact that I remember when the negotiations, which are terrible, by the way, the whole idea of treating hostages the same as criminals. Criminals. That's who they are.
Hamas uses civilians as human shields.
Absolutely not. I believe Israel does, and I have video footage of it.
It's difficult to debate if you're just on a completely different fact pattern. So let me just.
I will give you readings and videos. I see videos every day. I have family there. I see them literally get torn and ripped to shreds by Israeli missiles, and them killing kids and animals in the street and fun and laughing. And they post their own
none of those missiles
were
being launched
regardless
prior to October 7th.
A soldier, me versus you. If you're walking in the street with your family and I shoot you and post it on TikTok and laugh, is that not a war crime?
Well, that's what Hamas did.
No, that's what Israel is doing.
I will not.
That's a good point. Hamas literally did that. Yidden were slaughtered on Simchas Torah, and Hamas were dancing the next day. And there's people that literally did this to this man, Charlie Kirk. They're acting like terrorists. They're not terrorists. As I said, you don't define people based on their opinions. So I'm not calling people, normal people that are brainwashed and they don't know better when they're doing terrorist-like things. I'm not going to do that. I'm not. But look at the parallels.
Defend everything that every soldier has done. But I want to have one final question, which I think is important. If Israel laid down all of their weapons and said our military is no more, what would happen?
At this point in time, I don't believe they would come to a 2-state solution after everything that's gone on.
I agree too, but not the way this guy's thinking.
No, that wasn't the question. If Israel disbanded its military, what would happen?
The Palestinians would take over, but they would let the Jews.
Okay.
Listen. Listen, not forcefully. This is how they operate.
This guy's
Some
honest.
Muslims operate Islamically.
Somewhat.
They let them live under them in jizya. They tax them and they let them live, and they take that tax and give it back to them. How do you think the Ottoman Empire worked and lasted 600 years? How do you think the Golden Age of Islam lasted and it lasted for 300 years? Because this is history.
So no, I just want to make sure I understand. So they would just take over mostly peacefully.
No, most definitely peacefully, because that's what.
Can you show me an example of Jews living peacefully under Islamic rule?
Most definitely.
Where?
When the Hamas had Israeli captives. Have you seen the
Israeli captives they killed?
What?
They're not killed.
There was a 9-month-old baby that just.
What? This... Just this is what I mean. All it takes is one person with common sense to sit there and talk. Charlie Kirk sat there and he did this every day because it was the right thing and it was common sense. It was what people knew was right. And when you have these stupid people that are literally spewing lies, Hamas, how do we know Hamas is a good ruler? Because their hostages were okay. A, they're hostages. They're not okay. And B, have you ever seen the footage of the hostages? Despicable. Unbelievable.
Got returned home as a corpse by Hamas. No, but I am interested by what you're saying. So it's again, this is why it's important on this topic.
What's crazy about Charlie Kirk doing these things is that I am fuming. I'm furious. And I'm screaming my head off. But you see Charlie, how he's dealing with this. How he's just sitting there calmly. Charlie has every right to get up and just rant against this. But that's who he was. He took every single person with open arms, calmly answered them, unlike them shooting bullets.
To stay on the moral domain, because all of your numbers are wrong. 65,000 kids have not died, and
I didn't say 65,000 kids. I said 65,000 Palestinians, and 1.7 million have been displaced, creating one of the largest refugees.
None of that is correct, and that's okay. It's fraction. I don't believe in the numbers. However, the point is this: if Israel laid down its weapons,
yes,
they would be eliminated.
No, they would not.
You just admitted they would take over Israel. If Hamas laid down their weapons, we would have peace.
Most definitely not.
Because
the Israelis would keep doing what they have been doing. They have the right to resistance. They have a ceasefire currently, but prior to that, when anyone else in the world,
the emotions of this.
Look. This is a perfect example. There's a person literally next to this person, despicable. Okay, again, I'm doing myself. I'm so angry to the point that I'm branding these people. This poor guy with such a mashugana brain. And you see the guy who's reasonable, just as me and you, right next to him, just losing his mind. He would not survive in the same table as Charlie Kirk.
This topic are very high.
Yeah.
Obviously, my allegiance is first and foremost to America.
Yeah.
I'm interested in it just from a moral standpoint, though, which is why is it? Help me understand. There are well over 40 Muslim majority countries.
Also, like I'm watching these videos, and it's just even more and more crazy in my mind that this guy's gone. It's incomprehensible for me.
Countries in the world, over 1 billion Muslims. Israel is the size of New Jersey, and it has half the world's Jewry, about 7 million people.
Yep.
Why can't you just let Israel exist and leave it alone? Why the focus? Why the intensity? Why the anger?
There's no anger.
There's no anger?
Not from me. I'm talking about maybe other people. Okay. I don't hate anyone. I'm not displeased with anyone, but I don't believe in the unnecessary killing of people. That's not how we were raised.
I agree.
That's an American value and a conservative value.
I agree. That's why I think October 7th was the beginning of the unraveling of a lot of decency and conflicts.
But what do you think about all that spilling over prior? It's the same with the American Revolution.
I reject the premise.
You reject the premise?
I reject the. I mean, to say that they had no choice but to go and a bunch of babies. Let me actually challenge the point. if you were correct,
Yes.
and Hamas was trying to resist,
Yes.
why didn't they go attack military targets and instead they attacked civilian targets? That's what terrorists do, right?
No? I don't know.
So if
I'm not a military operator. What does that mean? It doesn't take a tuchus to think. The simple words of saying, you're right, they shouldn't have attacked. First of all, yeah, we should. What happens in should have never happened, however it happened, whatever it was going to be or how it's going to be. But the fact that Charlie's just asking a question from his perspective to ask this person what he could easily answer because of this, how this guy is so far, simply just yes or no. Can you condemn what happened on Simchas Torah? The answer is yes. It's always yes. And otherwise, gosh.
it was really like, hey, they wanted to resist, they should have went after IDF outposts and picked a fight with somebody their own size. They went after little kids in nurseries, in kibbutzes. And I think
But
you have a
did they
moral
not-
right. Hold on. You're very well read on this topic. You have family
Yes,
there.
you
I
have
think
the
you have a moral
moral
obligation to watch the GoPro videos. They're public.
I've seen. I will show you footage
Hold on,
every
no.
day coming out of Gaza.
I've seen what
I
you've
will show
seen.
you everything.
But you
No, I
equally,
don't
no, I'm
believe
talking.
you've seen
Wait,
what I've seen, because then you wouldn't talk this way.
no, I've seen what you've seen. But I want you to look at the guys that for 3 hours straight were watching GoPro videos, laughing, putting babies in.
Okay, show it to me or send me the
Yeah,
link.
no,
I'll
I'm happy
give
to.
me- yeah,
And
give
the
me
fact you
some.
don't even know it exists is very telling, because that's why Israel has become so aggressive in return. And understand the background
Yes.
is that the Jewish people have still not repopulated themselves to the pre-Nazi Holocaust levels.
How many people do you think died in the Holocaust?
How many people do you think died
I
in the
don't know.
Holocaust?
That's why I'm asking. I get so many different options.
7 to 8 million is
They
usually
say
the number.
7 to 8 million. I've seen 6. I've seen 2. I've seen 3.
Okay, so what number do you believe? And why does it matter?
Did I live back then? That's 1940, 1930s, 40s.
Does it matter?
No, I mean, regardless, it's a massive killing of them. But I
Was
don't
the
know
Holocaust?
By the way, yeah, that's also the argument. Numbers don't matter. When people die, it's terrible. It's terrible. So when they brand themselves that, oh, Eretz Yisrael killed this amount of thousands of people, it's literally immoral to brand every person like that. Every life is precious. You don't put a number of what is moral. The answer is 1. And that's it. So when you go, oh, the numbers are too high, duh. 1 person is too high.
Real?
How? Yeah, of course the
Okay,
Holocaust is
good.
real.
Then it shouldn't
But
matter.
how can you say they haven't repopulated to those times? How do you know?
Well,
Is there
again,
a record of the death?
well, yeah, there is a
The
record
guy's literally talking on his tuchus with no evidence, no statistics, no research, nothing.
of the death. And so we know how many Jews that there were in the country and in Europe, and they have not yet been able to repopulate to those same equivalent numbers coming back. So I think we don't agree on anything, and that's okay. I would love to see an end to the killing. However, there needs to be 3. Let me ask you my 3-part question, okay? Do you believe anti-Semitism is real, wrong, and evil?
I
Yes.
believe it is wrong, and I believe it exists, and I believe it's evil.
Okay,
yes.
good.
But
And Israel has
what
right to exist. Oh,
defines-
it's a super
okay,
easy
well,
3-point question.
Let me pause right there and ask you.
It's not
What
that
defines a
complicated.
semi?
A
And
Semite?
when did the term come about?
Well, a Semite
Yes.
comes from somebody from the Samaritan region,
Yes.
right?
Semitic peoples, which consist
Right.
of.
I could have finished the, answer. But yes, from the Samaritan region,
Yes.
that is a term that has largely been popularized in the last 1500. So let me be more specific. Anti-Jewish hatred.
There you go.
Is that fair?
Yes, that's
That's
more
evil,
reasonable.
wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Israel has a right to exist.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. And that since we posit that Israel has a right to exist, that we need to come up with some solution where all people can live
A
peacefully in the
two-state
region.
solution.
Okay. Or a 1-state solution or a 3-state solution,
Well,
right?
okay, then why can't they? If it's a one-state solution, why can't they live under the Palestinians peacefully, like they did previously?
Because there would be no such thing. There would never be such a thing. There will never exist a time, and there's never, from experience before, that when you didn't live in countries in Arab countries, let me be clear, radical Arab countries, it has never been peaceful. And the only peace you find is in Eretz Yisrael itself, where there are Yidden and Arabs living in Eretz Yisrael peacefully. And the only ones that are out there are from Gaza. They're out there that are literally attacking Eretz Yisrael and trying to stop the peace are those from Gaza, from Iran, and from the people that go into Eretz Yisrael, not because they want to live there peacefully, but because they want to start radicalizing and starting things in Eretz Yisrael. All right. All right, guys. That's enough for one day. Literally, this was that. I would go longer, but this is really taking a lot from me. But I hope that we come out of this saying with one message, and this is why I did the stream in the first place. I think what Charlie stood for was freedom of speech, and what they did to him was because of the lack of. Is because they want us to stop. They want us to be afraid. They want us to stop talking. And the moment that we do that, they win. So when I'm speaking to specifically Yidden, I want everyone to start thinking about what they're going to learn from this time. First of all, the most important, the Mashiach should come right now, and that the killing stops. All this should stop. But also we have to do our ishtadlus, putting out positivity and kindness. Not being afraid to say what's right, to put out there the positivity. All right, guys. Mirza Shem, next week we'll have things happening on a lighter note, and I do appreciate everyone joining us, and I hope that this was something you have enjoyed. I guess not enjoyed, but something that people appreciated us doing, and I would like to see all your comments in the comment section on the subject, on what you think. And yes, thank you so much for joining us. I think that is, as I always say, I think that's it for today. Have a good day. Live, Uziel's live for you to join along. Live, Uziel's live for you to join along.